Fitzgerald and the former Conservative advisor, Claire Pearsall. Claire and Nisha, thanks very much for being with us, and happy Saturday morning to both of you. Let's get straight into this one on the front of the eye. Of course, there's stories in many of the papers about the digital ID card. They're still calling it the brick card there in brackets, in inverted commas, sorry. I mean, I'm not sure that's what it's going to be called in the end, but there seems to be something of a backlash now against the idea.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not a new idea. I think this was first mooted to be introduced in the UK in 2000, back when Tony Blair was Prime Minister. So this is by no means a new Labour initiative. But of course, it's one of those things that resurfaces about every 5 years and seems to get shot down pretty quickly every single time, as we're seeing this time round. So this is, of course, the idea that everyone in the UK, to be able to work, to be able to have the right to work, would have to have a digital ID card that would have your name, potentially your address, we're not sure about that yet, and other bits of information about you and a photo. And Keir Starmer says that this would actually reduce illegal migration, the idea being that there's this huge kind of secret black economy where illegal migrants are working for delivery groups, for example, all kind of in secret. And Keir Starmer is saying that this would put an end to that. The issue, though, of course, well, there's a lot of issues. I don't even know if I have time to go into all of them. But the main issue with this is there's not really any evidence that this would stop people coming to the UK. It may stop them from getting the jobs when they get here, but there's nothing to prove that this would actually stop the amount of people getting here. I mean, and there's so many other issues as well.
You can get back to some of them, but Claire, I mean, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if people think this is going to stop the black economy from working, then they're sorely mistaken. If an employer is willing to take somebody on who has no documents, then they're not going to be asking for a digital ID either.
Why would they do that?
Why would they do it? So it seems a bit of a moot point. And when it was first brought up by Tony Blair and mooted around, of course, the House of Commons voted it down, didn't want to go ahead with it. And that was only a voluntary scheme. Keir Starmer seems to want to make this a mandatory scheme for every citizen, every adult in the UK. So you can see that people are just sort of looking at it thinking, you want to do this to stop illegal migration, but essentially you're making us all have one.
It hasn't come at a great time as well as we're dealing with this hack as well at that kiddo nurseries as well, sort of people's data being out there, which I think is kind of the point of this next one in The Guardian. Do you want to start us off on this one, Claire?
Well, that's right. I mean, I think everybody is concerned about how government handles our personal data, and we've seen in the past that there have been enormous breaches with the government, and especially with child tax credits back in the day, but also this morning as we're hearing about the nursery having children's data being held to ransom by a bunch of hackers. Estonia, who have digital ID and ID cards and don't have an issue with it, also suffered an enormous cyber attack. So I think that do we have the strategies in the UK to be able to deal with that? How secure is our data going to be? And as Alicia said, we don't actually know what data the government want to put on this ID card, brick card, call it what you will. How much are they going to have and how much is going to be open for those to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer to that would be it's probably going to be quite insecure and will be available to people if they are talented enough to be able to hack into these accounts. I mean, give us a sense of the political sort of decision-making behind this and why we think that Keir Starmer at this point in the cycle has decided to go for this.
That's a really good question, and I really wish I could provide people with a bit more clarity than I'm going to be able to, because I think everyone is really asking that same question.
Is everyone baffled as to why?
Totally, right. Because I think given the priorities at the moment and given, you know, how angry people are in the UK about so many political issues, people are looking at this and thinking, hang on, this is a policy that has been mooted by successive governments and every single time has gone down really badly. Why on earth, in this moment in time, would the Prime Minister bring this particular policy up when it's something that's really not that popular? I guess the only thing to say, though, is that this is his way of saying that he's going to deal with migration. We've heard this idea of the black economy so much recently from the Labour Party, and this is him trying to show that he's recognising that and is going to do something that's proactive. I think the other thing with it is it's quite easy to roll out digital ID cards. It's not a policy that would actually take loads and loads of time to kind of get through.
Because all our data's out there anyway and it's being held somewhere.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's the point. Like, it's the other story on this double-page spread, isn't it? That lots of other European countries do have this, not just European countries. Countries all over the world have ID cards. Perhaps it's something that's coming anyway, so why not start it now?
I think it's all except two, actually, which, you know, when you put it like that, maybe are we all just being a little bit dramatic? Should we just go with it and get it? I don't know. But, I mean,
there is a freedom aspect to it. And, of course, there is a cost implication. The Prime Minister said that it was going to be free for every citizen. But, of course, nothing is ever free. the taxpayer will be picking up the tab for this, and I don't think it's going to be cheap.
It's not clear as how much it's going to cost, is it?
No, and that's the other problem.
I've got Josh McAllister on in the next hour. I'm going to ask him that. I asked the Lib Dem yesterday, and he didn't know either, so I'll ask someone from the government if they can tell us how much it is going to cost us. All right, let's move on. Claire, why don't you start us off on this one in front of The Guardian?
So the splash in The Guardian about Labour in fight for the soul of the nation, which was Sir Keir Starmer's line in his speech yesterday. I'm quite baffled by it. What does that actually mean? And it doesn't matter how many pieces I've read, how many times I've listened to the speech, the soul of the nation apparently is something that I'm missing and I need to get back. I think this is a fight with reform. Large and centre in Keir Starmer's mind. I don't think that there is any basis for his decision-making at the moment other than to be not Nigel Farage. And he seems to want to adopt those kind of populist policies, those slogans. I'm not sure this one's going to stick because I think quite a lot of people are just scratching their heads as to what this actually means.
So I was listening to the speech yesterday. He said it a couple of times. He also said it in that little round table that they had with Kamali, the Finnish Prime Minister, and the Australian Prime Minister as well. He said it's about the country that we want to be. I mean, it feels soul of the nation. I don't know why it takes me to like Obama. It's like rhetoric, isn't it? I mean...
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's a way better point of reference than the one I'm about to bring up, which is probably really lame. I remember when Penny Mordaunt was trying to be the leader of the Conservative Party, and she did this speech that pretty much went viral because it was a little bit weird. And she kept saying, we've got to stand up and fight. We've got to stand up and fight. And it went on and on and on. And she repeated it like 20 times in the speech. And I thought this was quite reminiscent of that. And I seem to remember at the time the Labour kind of top team were really mocking her for this. And I think how the tables have turned. I mean, I think Claire's absolutely right in that this, at the core, is Keir Starmer showing that he's trying to stand up to the Reform Party and really, at the same time, admitting that he's quite afraid. And I think that was quite obvious in the speech. I mean, it seems like Reform was just living totally rent-free and the whole subject line of this speech was really just about defeating the populist right. I mean, realistically, this is a party at the moment, yes, fine, they're doing really well in the polls. They're a party with very few MPs. So the fact that we have a Prime Minister who is dedicating a whole speech purely to trying to fight off that threat, I mean, I think is really telling.
And Lucy Powell makes that point, I think, in one of the other papers this morning, that Nigel Farage has got the megaphone. Just a thought from both of you, actually, on Starmer's use of that kind of language. A different politician, someone who we knew his convictions and we knew his kind of ideology, would it feel different coming from someone like that, do we think?
I don't think it does. I think the British public aren't stupid. And they can see when politicians are just uttering phrases, and they tend to try them out. And this is what this speech felt like. It was a tryout for his conference speech. So I think all slogans put out there, at the moment, the public just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, OK, what's the detail on this? It did sound a bit like, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's the kind of feeling I was left with.
Interesting. All right. We'll skip over that one in the Mirror because it's a similar tape. But let's move on to this one with Nigel Farage in the Express. We had the polling yesterday on our air about... I mean, it's astounding. They'll be way ahead if the election were to be held today. It's not been held, of course, today. It'll be held in a few years' time. But he's on course to be Prime Minister.
Only just recovered from the last one.
Well, yes. You might have this one coming.
I know, but I mean, I think that's even quite a good point in that the last election was so recent. You know, we're only just over a year out and we're already feeling this tension and feeling this kind of threat of reform, if you like, to the Labour Party. And, I mean, this is the first poll of this particular kind that predicts this exact result, but it's not the first poll to suggest that Reform and Farage have really just gained so much momentum over the past year or so. And I think, you know, you could look at that and say it's due to their success, it's due to their policies, but I think in part it's more due to Labour's failure and this feeling in the country that the kind of political establishment generally, 14 years of the Conservatives, and now we've tried Labour, nothing feels better. And I think that feeling of anger is seeing people turn a bit more to smaller parties.
Yeah, I think that there's a general feeling of anger in the country. People feel let down, they don't feel any better off. They think that things are broken, and Nigel Farage is offering some kind of hope. I think that's how people view it, that he is somehow different.
Just as being an alternative, as being not the same as the others.
Being, yeah, completely different. And when you listen to people, when they say, why would he make a good Prime Minister? They go, because he's a really good bloke, and he says what I think. And he taps into that. And, you know, it's a very, very good campaigning tool for reform. You can't beat it.
OK. All right. we'll leave it there because we haven't got time to get through the next one because we've only got about 30 seconds left. But, guys, you're going to be back with me in the next hour, I think, for some more of the day's stories from the morning's newspapers. Claire, Alicia, thank you very much for that. All right, well, stay with us because we have more of the day's news after this short break. Well, of course, we will be looking ahead to the Labour Party conference, which gets underway in Liverpool today. The Prime Minister under growing pressure to scrap the two-child benefit cap, and there's also concerns about the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, and his ambitions.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.